Hi everyone, we are back and we are on lecture 3, importing data and essential statistics on big data. So this class is about big data, so we're finally getting into how to work with large data sets and specifically how we're going to import them, clean up the data sets, get our key essentially metrics and results, and then perform our analysis on them. So we've got quite a bit of large data here. So I'm going to download everything as a zip, and I am going to take my time. It's preparing download. Hopefully it'll finish up soon. And then we're going to organize this data and then start to analyze that for the rest of our lecture. So Mathematica is a nice tool, again, because there's a cloud feature. There's, again, importing is actually fairly easy and straightforward. And it's visual, right? So again, it's a little bit cleaner. Again, Python's great, MATLAB is great too for analyzing large data sets, but Mathematica is a nice tool where, again, it's just a little bit nicer and a little bit less clunky. So let's go ahead and let's start to, so you saw that I extracted the data. We need that to work in Mathematica. So let's go ahead. I'm going to start to organize some of this data set. So this is not going to be super interesting. XRD mes. It's going to be equal to. So I'm going to start to grab my data into lists. So first I'm going to look at my, actually let's do CR peaks. XRD measure. So we're looking at XRD analysis and measurements. XRD raw is going to be this. So we're going to get some raw data here. Text file. Actually, nothing. It should be a text. Control C. So you can see I'm just Control-Cing and then pasting in here. So it's pretty straightforward. Then we're going to look at some DSC data. And let's go ahead and grab all the DSC data there. DSC is just going to be all of these guys. Just doing Control-Click. I'm not going to deal with the cycle data. So DSC. And I could then do, I think we're going to do bending. So I can get my bending data, and that's going to be the 4-point bending. You can look at this one here. These are all good raw data sets. Bending, and then we could finally look at Modesto. These are data files from the Modesto Valley surges that we've worked with previously. For some of these data files. So let's go ahead and grab. Control-C, paste it in, and then now we can start to read these files in. So we're just reading the files into the list. Again, it's that simple. That's pretty straightforward. So now we have to start to import this data and visualize the data and see what do we want to take a look at. So let's start off with import XRD mesh, and okay, what's going on? Oh, that's because we're not treating it as a list. So XRD measure, we can start to see kind of this data file. So you can also, XRD measurement is an interesting one because it could treat this. If you want to import the data, you can import it as data. You could import it as, text. But again, we are typically going to want to import as data. So you could add that line here. Mathematica usually is good at basically interpreting that and making sure that it's treating it as such, but we want to make sure that that's the case. So I can now look at this as basically table form, and I can see what we're looking at here. So, for example, the first column here is going to give me basically the number of peaks, 2 theta, ESD, well, D is our interplanar distance. You can see there's going to be a lattice parameter. Where's our lattice parameter? A. Where is our lattice parameter? That's our size. There's our intensity norm. So you can start to see lots of, actually we have to calculate A. Lots of different values here, and now we can start to import and clean up this data set. So for example, if I take this data and I do 1 to 10, and I could look at it in table form. Table form is useful. Again, we don't want to assign this as a variable, but we want to visualize this data set. So if I grab, let me see here. Grab here, 1 to 10. Actually, we could do 1 to 5. So you can see here, it grabs, essentially, it is only going to be able to grab the first 5 rows. So again, we're analyzing the data, we're bringing it in, we're kind of seeing and visualizing what it looks like. We could also do import XRD raw 1, and then see here. See here, it's not treating it as data. So I need to put the data there. Otherwise, you see how it was imported? That file is a text file, so it's looking at like this. If I do table form, see it's 1 column there. So I need to look at this as data, and then it'll automatically split up into 2 columns. So, and again, I can look at the first 10 rows as well on that one. So I can clearly see for XRD raw, okay, I've got this chromium, these headers here, 2 theta versus intensity, and now I could start to work with those plots. So whenever you're first getting into the data set, it's important to kind of just take a peek at it. How does it look like, right? So DSC dat. So for example, I could do this. It's giving me a lot, so let's do 1 to 30. Let's look at backslash table form. And don't close it. If I close it here, I need to close this data. Actually, that's closed. Oops. Let me see here. So again, this is what you're just some of the examples of what you're looking at. Oops. I think we're, again, always good to, so we also see here, there's another parentheses here, so we could do flatten this. So let's flatten 1. And then we could look at basically 1 to 30. Backslash table form. And now we can start to see, okay, so I've got some headers here, I've got an index, got time, sample temperature, and again, this is what we're working with. So again, this code didn't work because I didn't flatten, and again, can't take the position. So we have to kind of see, because oftentimes, who knows, you could be given data files where you're not sure what it is. We have to double check, and we can do the same thing. So for example, import ending 1. So we could look at this from 1 to 20. Let's look at this as a table form. This one's pretty straightforward. Again, time in that first column, displacement, force, and then we could also do something very similar for Modesto. Again, time, displacement, force. Fantastic. So again, this is just importing the data, taking a peek at the data, and then soon, actually now, we're going to go ahead and get started on how do we actually analyze this data, clean up the data, and extract the key data sets. So that's very important. So I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks. Bye.